Commander Yuna stared at the blinking red light on her control panel. In her 30 years of service with the Viridian Alliance, she had never seen an emergency signal like this one. The light pulsed faster and faster, making her blue skin glow, in the dim command center of Station Omega-7. The station floated at the edge of known space, watching for new civilizations that might threaten the peaceful galaxy. For centuries, the station had been quiet. Most species took thousands of years to develop space travel. They grew slowly, carefully, following the same patterns that every advanced race had followed before them. But today was different. Captain, Deho burst through the command center doors. His breathing was heavy and his normally calm face showed pure shock. He carried a data pad that trembled in his four-fingered hands. Commander Yuna, we have a problem, Deho said. His voice cracked as he spoke. A big problem. Yuna turned her chair to face him. Her large black eyes focused on the data pad. What kind of problem, Captain? The kind that changes everything we know about space travel, Deho replied. He activated the data pad, and a holographic display appeared above Yuna's desk. The display showed a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness. This is planet Earth, Deho continued. It sits in Sector 7G, near the outer edge of the spiral arm. Our scouts marked it as primitive just 200 years ago. The beings there had barely learned to fly. Yuna nodded. This was normal. Most species needed at least 5,000 years to go from basic flight to space travel. The galaxy was patient with new species. So what is the emergency? Yuna asked. Deho touched the datapad again. The display changed to show dozens of bright dots moving away from the blue planet. Each dot represented a spacecraft. Yuna counted them quickly. There were more than 50 ships, all moving at incredible speed. These ships appeared 2 weeks ago, Deho explained. The beings from Earth, they call themselves humans, have not only achieved faster than light travel, they have built an entire fleet. Yuna felt her heart skip a beat. This was impossible. No species developed this quickly. She had studied the history of every known civilization in the galaxy. The fastest species ever recorded had taken 3,000 years to build their first interstellar ship. How fast are they moving? Yuna asked. Faster than our best ships, Deho replied. And that is not the worst part. Yuna waited for him to continue. She noticed that other crew members had gathered around her desk. Word was spreading quickly through the station. The worst part is their planet, Deho said. We sent a deep probe to study their home world. Commander, this planet should not support intelligent life. The display changed again. Now it showed detailed scans of Earth. Yuna gasped when she saw the data. The planet's surface temperature changed from freezing cold to burning hot. Massive storms covered entire continents. The oceans contained enough salt to poison most known life forms. The atmosphere had oxygen levels that would kill many species. This is a death world, whispered Dr. Minji, the station's chief scientist. She had joined the group around Yuna's desk. How did anything survive on this planet, let alone become intelligent? It gets worse, Deho said. He touched the data pad once more. The display now showed images of Earth's surface. Yuna saw creatures that made no sense. Giant beasts with sharp teeth lived next to tiny insects that could kill with poison. Plants grew in places where nothing should survive. And everywhere she saw humans. The humans looked strange compared to other species Yuna knew. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin had no natural protection against radiation or extreme temperature. They seemed weak and soft, but they were everywhere on their death world. They lived in the frozen areas where the temperature dropped below the freezing point of water. They lived in hot deserts where other species would die in minutes. They even lived on floating structures in the middle of their poisonous oceans. How is this possible? Yuna asked. We do not know, Deho replied. But there is more. These humans have a history of surviving things that should have wiped them out completely. The display changed to show historical data. Yuna read about massive rocks falling from space that destroyed most life on Earth. She learned about ice ages that covered the planet in frozen death. She saw records of diseases that killed millions of humans at a time. But the humans never disappeared. They adapted. They learned. They survived everything their terrible planet threw at them. Their entire history is one disaster after another, Dr. Minji said, reading the data. Earthquakes, floods, volcanic explosions, wars, famines, plagues. Any one of these events would destroy most civilizations. The humans lived through all of them, and now they have spaceships, Yuna said quietly. The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the display showing the human fleet moving through space at impossible speeds. Engineer Wusung stepped forward. He was the station's technology expert. Commander, there is something else you should know about their ships. What? Now? Yuna asked. She was not sure she wanted to hear more bad news. The ships do not follow standard design patterns, Wusung explained. They are built like their planet. Everything has backup systems. If one part breaks, two other parts can do the same job. They over-engineer everything. That is wasteful, said Lieutenant Sora. Efficient design uses exactly what is needed, nothing more. Unless you come from a world that tries to kill you every day, Wusung replied. Then you build everything to survive the impossible. Commander Yuna stood up from her chair. She walked to the main viewing screen and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were coming toward galactic space. They were moving fast, and they came from a world that had taught them to survive anything. Send a message to the Galactic Council, Yuna ordered. Priority 1 emergency status. Tell them we have a new species approaching our borders. What should we tell them about the humans? Captain Deho asked. Yuna thought for a long moment. She looked at the data about Earth, about the humans, about their impossible history of survival and adaptation. She thought about their fleet of ships built to survive anything the universe could throw at them. Tell them to get ready, Yuna said finally. The humans are coming, and based on everything we have learned, it is about to get very wild. As the message raced toward the galactic capital, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever, the human fleet continued its approach. They moved through the darkness of space, survivors of a death world, carrying with them the lessons learned from surviving the impossible. The galaxy had never seen anything like them before, and very soon, they would learn that everything they thought they knew about survival, adaptation, and determination was about to be challenged by a species that simply refused to give up, no matter what the universe threw at them. The age of humans in the galaxy was about to begin. The Central Diplomatic Station was the largest structure ever built in galactic space. It stretched across 50 kilometers of empty void, home to representatives from 847 different species. Today, all of them waited to meet the humans. Ambassador Hyunwoo stepped off the human transport ship and looked around the docking bay. His brown eyes took in everything with calm interest. Behind him came 3 other humans. Dr. Sora carried a small bag of scientific equipment. Engineer Wubin had tools hanging from his belt. Captain Gina walked with the confident stride of a military officer. The welcoming committee had prepared for months. They wore their finest ceremonial robes and activated the most advanced translation devices. Protocol demanded perfection when meeting a new species for the first time. But the humans looked so ordinary. Elder Minji of the Ethereal Dominion stepped forward first. Her tall, thin body glowed with the soft blue light that her species was famous for. She had lived for over 3,000 years and had welcomed dozens of new species to the galactic community. Welcome, humans of Earth, Elder Minji said in the ancient formal greeting. We offer you the peace of the void and the wisdom of the stars. Ambassador Hyunwoo smiled. It was a strange expression that showed his white teeth. Most species kept their mouths closed during formal meetings. Thank you, Hyunwoo replied in perfect galactic common language. We are happy to be here and excited to meet everyone. The translation device made a small beeping sound. The word excited had no direct translation in most galactic languages. The concept of looking forward to unknown situations was foreign to most species. General Taemin of the Ironclaw Empire studied the humans carefully. His red eyes looked for weapons, for signs of hidden technology, for anything that might explain how these soft creatures had built such advanced ships. He saw nothing threatening. The humans appeared defenseless. Your journey from your home system was remarkably fast, General Taman said. Our fastest ships would need 3 months to travel the same distance. You arrived in 6 weeks. Our ships are pretty good, Engineer Wubin said with another of those strange smiles. We had to build them tough. Space can be dangerous. Doctor. Kira of the Crystalline Collective touched her translation device. The word tough had 17 different possible meanings. She chose the one that meant strong and durable. Perhaps you would join us for the formal welcome ceremony, Dr. Kira suggested. We have prepared a cultural exchange dinner. The humans agreed eagerly. This worried several of the alien delegates. Most new species were nervous during first contact. They asked many questions about safety and customs. The humans seemed to trust everyone completely. The great dining hall had been prepared with foods from dozens of different worlds. Each dish was carefully tested to make sure it would not harm any of the species present. The galactic community had learned long ago that many foods were poisonous across species lines. Ambassador Hyunwoo looked at the spread of food with interest. This looks wonderful, he said. Do you mind if we add some things from our ship? We brought gifts. Before anyone could answer, Dr. Sora had returned with a small container. She opened it and began placing human foods on the central table. The smell that came from the container made several aliens step backward. What is that? Asked Council Member Bora of the Trade Federation. Her nose wrinkled at the sharp burning smell. Hot sauce, Dr. Sora explained. And some kimchi, chocolate, coffee, and wine. These are popular foods from Earth. Dr. Kira ran a quick scan with her portable analyzer. The results made her gasp. These substances are toxic, she announced. The chocolate contains theobromine, which is deadly to most species. The fermented vegetables contain bacteria that could cause serious illness. The liquid alcohol would poison anyone who drank it. Dr. Sora looked confused. Really? We eat these things every day. They are good for you. To prove her point, Dr. Sora took a large spoonful of the kimchi and ate it. The smell of fermentation and spices made half the aliens in the room cover their breathing passages. Then she poured herself a glass of wine and drank it while eating a piece of chocolate. The aliens watched in horror as Dr. Sora consumed what they knew were deadly poisons. But instead of falling down sick, she smiled and offered the foods to her human colleagues. Captain Gina took some of the hot sauce and poured it over her plate of safe galactic food. The sauce was so spicy that the air above her plate seemed to shimmer. She ate it without any sign of discomfort. How are you not dead? Whispered Elder Minji. Dead? From food? Engineer Wubin laughed. This is mild compared to what we eat at home. Sora, did you bring any of those ghost peppers from the garden? I thought they might be too spicy for first contact, Dr. Sora replied. General Taman felt his blood run cold. The Iron Claw Empire had spent decades developing biological weapons. Their most deadly poison was designed to cause the same burning sensation that these humans were eating for pleasure. Your species consumes capsaicin as recreation? General, Taman asked. Sure, Captain Gina said. It tastes good and makes you feel warm inside. Some people compete to see who can eat the spiciest food. The alien delegates looked at each other with growing alarm. A species that ate poison for fun was not something they had prepared for. Ambassador Hyunwoo noticed the uncomfortable silence. Is something wrong? We do not want to offend anyone. Council Member Bora cleared her throat. Not at all. We are simply curious about your homeworld. What is it like? Earth. It is beautiful, Dr. Sora said with genuine warmth. We have mountains and oceans, forests and deserts. The weather can be challenging, but that makes life interesting. Challenging. How? Elder Minji asked carefully. Captain Gina thought for a moment. Well, we have storms that can level cities, earthquakes that crack the ground open, volcanoes that bury entire regions in ash. The winters can freeze you solid in some places, and the summers can cook you alive in others. She said all of this as if she were describing a pleasant garden. And you consider this beautiful? Dr. Kira asked. Of course, Engineer Wubin said. It keeps us on our toes. Earth taught us to be ready for anything. That is probably why we learned to build good spaceships so quickly. When your planet tries to kill you regularly, you get creative about survival. The humans continued eating their toxic food and sharing stories about their death world, as if it were the most normal thing in the galaxy. They talked about surviving ice ages, meteor impacts, supervolcanoes, and global floods. They mentioned wars that killed millions, plagues that wiped out entire continents, and disasters that would have ended most civilizations. But they spoke of all these things with the same cheerful tone they used to discuss the weather. As the evening continued, the alien delegates began to understand that they were not just meeting a new species. They were meeting survivors of the most hostile planet anyone had ever discovered. These humans had not just survived their world, they had thrived on it. When the formal dinner ended, Ambassador Hyunwoo stood to address the gathering. "We want to thank everyone for this warm welcome," he said. "We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our species and the galactic community." As the humans left for their quarters, the alien delegates remained behind. They sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had learned. "They eat our deadliest biological weapons like candy," General Taman said quietly. "They survived disasters that would destroy our civilizations," Elder Minji added. "And they think their planet is beautiful," Dr. Kira finished. Council member Bora looked around the table at her colleagues. "I think we need to call another emergency session. These humans are not like anything we have ever encountered." Outside the station, the human ship waited quietly in space. Inside, the 4 human delegates prepared for sleep, completely unaware that they had just terrified some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy simply by being themselves. Tomorrow would bring new meetings, new questions, and new revelations about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that had never seen their like before. The neutral testing ground stretched across an entire star system that had been cleared of planets long ago. Here, the galactic community tested new technologies and settled disputes through controlled combat simulations. Today, they would test the humans. Captain Gina stood on the bridge of the test ship that the Galactic Council had provided. The vessel was old by galactic standards, using technology that was considered outdated 50 years ago. Her crew of 50 humans worked at stations designed for beings with 4 arms and 3 eyes. "This should be interesting," said Lieutenant Minho as he tried to figure out the alien weapon controls. "These buttons are in all the wrong places." "We will make it work," Captain Gina replied calmly. "We always do." In the observation station 5 light minutes away, thousands of alien military officers watched through advanced viewing screens. They had designed this test carefully. The humans would face simulated enemy ships controlled by the galaxy's most advanced combat computer. The enemy fleet had 500 ships. The humans had 1. Admiral Junho of the Galactic Defense Fleet explained the situation to his staff. "This is not meant to be fair. We want to see how humans react when facing impossible odds. Most species surrender or retreat. A few fight bravely before being destroyed." General Taman nodded. "The simulation is designed to test character, not combat ability. No single ship can defeat 500 enemies even with a skilled crew." On the observation screens, they watched the human ship move toward the simulated enemy fleet. The ship's movements were strange. Instead of following standard formation patterns, it moved in ways that seemed random. "What are they doing?" asked Commander Yuna. "That flight pattern makes no tactical sense." Inside the human ship, Engineer Wubin was busy rewiring the weapon systems. "Gina, I can get 30% more power from the main guns, but I need to reroute power from life support." "Do it," Captain Gina ordered without hesitation. "We can hold our breath if we need to." The alien observers gasped. No species willingly reduced life support during combat. It was considered suicidal. "They are going to kill themselves, Dr. Tiu," Minji whispered, but the humans were just getting started. As the enemy fleet approached, Captain Gina gave an order that confused everyone watching. "All power to engines. Ram the command ship." The human vessel accelerated directly toward the largest enemy ship. This was not a recognized combat tactic. Ramming attacks were considered primitive and wasteful. "They are going to sacrifice themselves in the first minute," General Taman said. This proves nothing about human capabilities, but just before impact, the human ship suddenly changed direction. The enemy command ship, expecting a collision, had moved to avoid the ramming attack. This put it exactly where Captain Gina wanted it. "Now," she ordered. The human ship unleashed every weapon it had directly into the enemy command ship's engines. The modifications that Engineer Wubin had made turned their outdated weapons into something much more powerful. The enemy command ship exploded. The remaining 499 enemy ships immediately changed their attack pattern. With their command ship gone, they reverted to basic programming. This made them predictable. "Split formation." "Captain," Gina ordered. "Pattern Delta 7. The alien observers had never heard of Pattern Delta 7. It was not in any military database. "What is Pattern Delta 7? Admiral Junho asked his tactical computer. "Unknown combat formation," the computer replied. On the screens, they watched something impossible happen. The single human ship began moving in a complex pattern that confused the enemy ship's targeting systems. It would appear in one location, fire a quick burst of weapons, then vanish before the enemy could respond. "How are they moving so fast?" Commander Yuna asked. Engineer Wubin had diverted power from everything except engines and weapons. The ship was running on minimum life support, no artificial gravity, and reduced lighting. The humans worked in near darkness, breathing recycled air using every available bit of energy for speed and firepower. "They turned their ship into a weapon," General Taman said with growing respect. But the humans were not done. As the enemy ships began to adapt to their hit-and-run tactics, Lieutenant Minho discovered something useful. "Captain, the enemy ships have a communication weakness," he reported. "If we can jam their signals at the right frequency, they will not be able to coordinate attacks." "Do it," Captain Gina ordered. What happened next amazed every alien observer. The humans did not just jam the enemy communications, they replaced them with fake signals. Soon, enemy ships were attacking each other, thinking they were firing at the human vessel. "They turned the enemy fleet against itself," Admiral Junho said in disbelief. "How did they know the communication protocols?" The answer was simple but terrifying. The humans had figured out the enemy communication system by listening to it for 10 minutes. They had learned enough about alien technology during first contact to understand how it worked. Then they had improved on it. As the battle continued, the humans displayed abilities that challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. When their weapons overheated, they used the enemy's own missiles against them. When their shields failed, they used debris from destroyed ships as armor. Most impressive of all, they never stopped talking to each other. While other species maintained strict communication protocols during combat, the humans shared ideas, made jokes, and encouraged each other constantly. "Wubin, can you make the engines go faster?" Captain Gina asked during a particularly difficult maneuver. "I can try," Wubin replied, "but if I push them too hard, we might explode." "Good thing we are hard to kill," Minho laughed. This casual attitude toward mortal danger disturbed many of the alien observers. But it also explained something important. The humans were not fearless. They were afraid of dying, just like everyone else. They simply refused to let fear stop them from doing what needed to be done. As the simulation entered its final phase, only 50 enemy ships remained. The humans had destroyed 450 enemy vessels without losing their own ship. But now they faced a problem. Their ship was damaged, their weapons were nearly depleted, and their engines were failing. "We have one more trick," Captain Gina announced. "All crew to escape pods." The alien observers watched in horror as the humans began abandoning their ship. This made no sense. The battle was almost won. Why are they surrendering now? Dr. Kira asked, but the humans were not surrendering. As the crew reached the escape pods, Captain Gina remained on the bridge. She pointed the damaged ship directly at the center of the remaining enemy formation and activated the self-destruct sequence. Then, she jumped into the last escape pod. The explosion was massive. The human ship took out 30 enemy vessels in its death. The remaining 20 enemy ships, confused and scattered, were easy targets for the humans in their escape pods. Each escape pod had basic weapons and engines. The humans used them like tiny fighters working together to destroy the last enemy ships. When the battle ended, the testing ground was filled with wreckage. One human ship and 50 crew members had defeated 500 enemy vessels. Not a single human had died. In the observation station, thousands of alien military officers sat in complete silence. Admiral Junho finally spoke. "Computer, run full. Analysis of human combat performance." "Analysis complete," the computer replied. "Human tactics do not match any known military doctrine. Combat effectiveness rating, impossible." General Taman turned to his staff. "We need to send another message to the Galactic Council. Priority Alpha." "What should the message say?" Commander Yuna asked. General Taman looked at the screens showing human crew members celebrating their victory while floating in space in tiny escape pods. They were laughing and congratulating each other as if they had just won a game instead of fighting for their lives. "Tell the Council that we are not evaluating whether humans can join the galactic community," General Taman said quietly. "We are discovering whether the galactic community can survive humans joining it." As the humans returned to their quarters, for rest and medical treatment, the alien observers began the difficult task of trying to explain what they had witnessed. How could one ship defeat 500? How could 50 beings outthink the galaxy's most advanced combat computer? The answer was becoming clear, and it frightened them. The humans did not just refuse to give up. They refused to accept that anything was impossible. And in a universe where most species learned to accept their limitations, that made the humans the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever encountered. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 3 days. Representatives from 847 species filled the Great Assembly Hall, all arguing about the same thing: what to do about the humans. The recordings from the combat simulation had spread across the galaxy, faster than light-speed communications could carry them. Every military academy, every government, every species had watched 50 humans destroy 500 enemy ships with tactics that should not have worked. Councillor Bora of the Trade Federation stood at the central podium. Her forearms gestured as she spoke to the assembled delegates. "The humans have shown no hostile intentions," she argued. "They came here seeking friendship. They shared their food and their stories with us. When we asked them to prove their abilities, they agreed, without question." A wave of disagreement rippled through the assembly hall. War Prime Donghae of the Iron Claw Empire rose from his seat. His red scales bristled with anger. "Councillor Bora speaks of friendship, but what of their capabilities?" Donghae shouted. "These humans eat poison for pleasure. They live on a world that kills everything else. They defeated our best combat simulation using tactics that our greatest military minds called impossible." "That does not make them evil," Councillor Bora replied. "It makes them different." High Mind Cheyung of the Crystalline Collective activated her translation device and projected her thoughts into the hall. Her species communicated through direct mental contact, which made their words carry more weight. "The humans are too different," her thoughts echoed in every mind present. "They do not follow the natural laws that govern all other intelligent life. They adapt too quickly, learn too fast, and refuse to accept limitations that keep the galaxy stable." Elder Minji of the Ethereal Dominion had remained quiet during most of the debate. Now she slowly rose to speak. At 3,000 years old, she had more experience with first contact situations than anyone else in the hall. "In my long life, I have welcomed 23 new species to our community," Elder Minji said. "Each followed predictable patterns. They developed slowly, learned carefully, and integrated gradually into galactic society. The humans follow none of these patterns." She activated a display showing human expansion over the past 6 months. The images shocked many delegates who had not been following the latest reports. "Since first contact, humans have established colonies on 17 worlds," Elder Minji continued. "Every single one of these worlds was previously classified as uninhabitable. Frozen wastelands, toxic atmospheres, crushing gravity, deadly radiation. The humans did not just survive on these worlds, they built thriving cities. The display showed images of human colonies. On a world where the surface temperature never rose above -40 degrees, humans had built underground cities that housed millions. On a planet with an atmosphere full of sulfuric acid, they had created floating cities in the upper atmosphere. On a high-gravity world that would crush most species, humans walked around normally while wearing mechanical suits. "How is this possible?" asked Representative Jiwon of the Peaceful Gardens Alliance. "Our best terraforming technology takes centuries to make a world livable. The humans did it in months." War Prime Donghae provided the answer, though he clearly did not like it. "They do not terraform worlds to suit themselves. They change themselves to suit the worlds." This statement caused an uproar in the assembly hall. Changing your biology to survive in different environments was theoretically possible, but no species had ever done it on such a scale. Dr. Neon, the galaxy's leading expert on biology and evolution, stepped forward. She had spent the past month studying every piece of data about humans that she could find. "I have completed my analysis of human biology," Dr. Neon announced. "My findings challenge everything we understand about evolution and adaptation." She activated her own display. It showed the internal structure of human bodies compared to other species. "Humans should not exist," Dr. Neon stated simply. "Their biology is too flexible, too adaptable. They can survive in temperature ranges that would kill any other species. They can eat foods that are toxic to everyone else. They can adapt to different gravity levels, atmospheric compositions, and radiation levels in ways that violate the basic laws of biology." "What are you saying?" High-Mind Chaeyoung asked. "I am saying that humans are not just another species," Dr. Neon replied. "They are the ultimate survival organism. Every challenge that would destroy other life forms only makes them stronger." The assembly hall fell silent as delegates processed this information. Commander Yuna of the border monitoring stations had been listening to the debate with growing concern. Now she stood to share the latest intelligence reports. "The human expansion is accelerating," she announced. "Our scouts report new human colonies appearing every few days. They are not just colonizing uninhabitable worlds anymore. They are exploring regions of space that we have never dared to enter." She showed images of human ships near black holes, inside nebulae that would destroy most vessels, and in star systems with radiation levels that would kill any known life form. "They are using these dangerous regions as shortcuts, Commander," Yuna continued. "Their ships are built to survive conditions that would destroy our best vessels. They are mapping new routes through space that cut travel time by months." This news caused another wave of concern among the delegates. If humans could travel through dangerous regions that other species avoided, they would have a massive advantage in trade, exploration, and, if necessary, warfare. Admiral Junho had been reviewing the combat simulation data for weeks. Now he shared his conclusions with the assembly. "The humans did not just defeat our simulation through superior tactics," Admiral Junho said. "They defeated it by refusing to accept that defeat was possible. When their weapons failed, they found new weapons. When their ship was damaged, they turned it into a weapon. When they were outnumbered 500 to 1, they made the enemy fight itself." He paused to let this sink in. "This is not just military skill," Admiral Junho continued. "This is a completely different way of thinking. Most species learn their limitations and work within them. Humans refuse to acknowledge that limitations exist." The debate continued for hours. 3 distinct groups had formed among the delegates. The HFY Alliance faction, led by Councillor Bora, believed that humans could be valuable partners. They pointed to humanity's willingness to help during first contact and their apparent lack of aggressive intentions. The Resistance faction, commanded by War Prime Donghae, viewed humans as an existential threat. They began quietly discussing military preparations, convinced that humanity would eventually turn hostile and overwhelm the galaxy. The isolationist faction, represented by High-Mind Chaeyoung, wanted to quarantine human space and prevent further contact until the galaxy could develop countermeasures. As the session continued into its 4th day, more disturbing reports arrived. Human colonies were sending out their own exploration ships. These ships moved even faster than the original human fleet and carried crews that seemed even more adaptable than the first generation of human space travelers. They are not just expanding, reported Scout Captain Deho. They are learning. Each new human colony is more advanced than the last. They are adapting their technology to work better in space, and they are doing it at a speed that defies comprehension. The final presentation came from Dr. Kira of the Crystalline Collective. She had been studying human culture and society through their communications and public broadcasts. The most disturbing thing about humans is not their technology or their biology, Dr. Kira announced. It is their attitude. They see every problem as something that can be solved. They view every obstacle as a challenge to overcome. They treat every disaster as a learning opportunity. She showed recordings of human news broadcasts from their home world. The delegates watched humans responding to natural disasters with immediate rescue operations, rebuilding efforts, and plans to prevent similar problems in the future. When a volcano destroyed one of their cities, they rebuilt it with better materials, Dr. Kira explained. When a hurricane devastated their coastal areas, they designed new construction methods that could survive stronger storms. When a disease threatened their population, they created vaccines in record time. This is normal behavior, protested Representative Jiwon. No, it is not, Dr. Kira replied. Most species learn to avoid disasters or accept them as natural events. Humans actively fight against every challenge their environment presents. They never surrender to fate or accept that some problems cannot be solved. As the emergency session finally came to an end, the Galactic Council faced a decision that would shape the future of their civilization. They could welcome the humans as allies, try to stop them as enemies, or attempt to isolate them as an unknown threat. But deep down, many delegates suspected that the choice had already been made for them. The humans were coming whether the galaxy was ready or not. The only question was what would happen when they arrived in force. Outside the assembly hall, human ships continued their expansion into galactic space, carrying with them the revolutionary idea that any problem could be solved, any obstacle could be overcome, and any limitation could be surpassed with enough determina. The emergency alert reached every corner of the galaxy at the same time. The star in the Kepler system was dying, and it was dying fast. Dr. Neon stared at the readings in disbelief. Stars did not collapse this quickly. The process should take thousands of years, but the Kepler star would destroy all life in the system within 6 months. How many people live in the Kepler system? She asked her assistant. 12,700,000,000 beings across 7 inhabited worlds, came the reply. 15 different species, including some of the oldest colonies in the galaxy. Galactic Council met in emergency session within hours. The situation was clear and terrible. They did not have enough ships to evacuate 12 billion beings in 6 months. Their technology could not stabilize a collapsing star. Billions would die. We can save perhaps 2 billion people, Admiral Junho reported. If we use every available ship and work without stopping, we might evacuate the populations of the 3 closest worlds. And the other 4 worlds? Elder Minji asked, though she already knew the answer. We will have to abandon them, Admiral Junho replied quietly. The assembly hall fell silent. In the 3,000-year history of the Galactic Council, they had never faced a disaster of this scale. Entire civilizations would be lost. High Mind Chaeyoung of the Crystalline Collective spoke first. We must save who we can. It is tragic, but the laws of physics cannot be changed. Some things are impossible. War Prime. Donghae agreed. We should begin evacuation immediately. Every day we delay means more deaths. But Counselor Bora had a different idea. What about the humans? They have ships and they seem to specialize in doing impossible things. The suggestion caused an immediate uproar. Several delegates spoke at once, all saying the same thing. The humans were too new, too unknown, too dangerous to involve in such a critical situation. They have been in space for less than a year, War Prime Donghae protested. How could they help with something we cannot handle? Because they do not accept that things are impossible, Counselor Bora replied. Every time we have said something could not be done, they have done it. After hours of debate, the council made a desperate decision. They would ask the humans for help, but they would also begin their own evacuation efforts. If the humans failed, at least some lives would be saved. The message reached the human fleet within hours. Ambassador Hyunwoo was meeting with Captain Gina and Engineer Woobin when the communication arrived. 12 billion people? Captain Gina repeated after hearing the details. 6 months, and their star is actually collapsing? That is what they say, Ambassador Hyunwoo confirmed. They want to know if we can help. Engineer Woobin was already pulling up technical data about stellar collapse. His eyes moved quickly across the information. This is bad, Woobin said. Really bad. But not impossible. What do you mean, not impossible? Captain Gina asked. Can we actually save a dying star? Maybe not save it, Woobin replied. But we might be able to stabilize it long enough to evacuate everyone. We would need to get very close to the star and deploy some experimental technology. How close? Ambassador Hyunwoo asked. Close enough that the radiation would kill most species. Instantly, Woobin said. But we are humans. We have dealt with radiation before. Within days, a human fleet arrived in the Kepler system. Admiral Jiwon commanded the operation from the exploration vessel Endurance. Her crew included volunteers from every human colony, all eager to help save billions of lives. The alien evacuation fleets were already working desperately to save who they could. When the human ships arrived, Admiral Junho contacted Admiral Jiwon directly. We appreciate your offer to help, Admiral Junho said. But this situation may be beyond even human capabilities. The radiation near the star would kill your crews in minutes. Let us worry about the radiation, Admiral Jiwon replied. We have some tricks that might surprise you. The humans had indeed brought tricks. Their ships were equipped with shielding technology that they had developed for working near black holes and inside dangerous nebulae. More importantly, the human crews were volunteers who had specifically trained for extreme radiation exposure. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your lives, Admiral Junho protested. Even if you succeed in stabilizing the star, your crews will die from radiation poisoning. Who said anything about dying? Engineer Woobin replied over the communication channel. We have been working on this problem for months. We think we can do this and survive. What the humans did not tell the alien fleet was that they had been preparing for exactly this kind of emergency ever since joining the galactic community. Human scientists had studied every possible disaster scenario and developed contingency plans for all of them. The operation began with 12 human ships flying directly toward the dying star. The radiation levels were so high that the alien monitoring equipment could not function properly. The alien fleets could only watch as the human ships disappeared into the stellar radiation. Inside the lead ship, Admiral Jiwon and her crew worked calmly, despite the fact that they were flying into conditions that would kill most life forms instantly. Radiation levels are climbing, reported Lieutenant Minho. We are now at levels that would be lethal to most species. Good thing we are not most species, Admiral Jiwon replied. Deploy the first stabilization probe. The human plan was audacious even by their own standards. They would place a series of devices inside the star's corona that would regulate the nuclear reactions causing the collapse. The devices had to be positioned precisely, and the ships deploying them had to survive radiation that could melt most materials. First probe deployed successfully, Engineer Woobin reported. Moving to Position 2. As the hours passed, the alien evacuation fleets watched their instruments in amazement. The star's collapse was slowing. The deadly radiation was decreasing. The human plan was actually working. But the cost was becoming clear. The human ships were taking tremendous damage from the radiation. Their hulls were becoming radioactive. Their life support systems were failing. Human fleet, this is Admiral Junho, came a communication from the alien command ship. You must evacuate immediately. Your ships cannot survive much longer in that radiation. We are not done yet, Admiral Jiwon replied. Her voice was calm despite the fact that her ship was slowly being cooked by stellar radiation. We need 3 more hours to deploy the remaining stabilizers. You will be dead in 3 hours, Admiral Junho protested. Probably not, Lieutenant Minho said over the channel. We have been taking radiation medicine and wearing protective suits. Plus, our ships are built tougher than you think. What the humans did not mention was that they had accepted the possibility of death from the beginning. Every crew member was a volunteer who understood the risks. They were willing to die to save 12 billion lives. But they did not plan to die. As the final stabilization probe was deployed, the human ships began their withdrawal from the star. The alien fleets watched in horror as the human vessels limped away from the stellar radiation zone. The ships were damaged, their crews were sick from radiation exposure, but they were alive. All ships reporting successful withdrawal, Admiral Jiwan announced. Mission accomplished, the star is stable. The results were beyond what anyone had dared to hope. The Kepler star stopped collapsing. The deadly radiation dropped to safe levels. Most importantly, there was now enough time to evacuate all 12 billion inhabitants of the system. But the humans were not finished. Admiral Junho, this is Admiral Jiwan, came the communication from the lead human ship. We would like to help with the evacuation. Our ships can carry more people than your estimates suggested. Your ships are damaged, Admiral Junho replied. Your crews need medical treatment. You have already done enough. Our ships are tougher than they look, Admiral Jiwan said, and our crews are feeling better already. The radiation medicine is working. What followed was the largest rescue operation in galactic history. Human ships worked alongside alien vessels to evacuate 12 billion beings from 7 different worlds. The humans did not just help with transportation. They solved problems that the alien fleets had thought were impossible. When the evacuation, ships could not land on high-gravity worlds. Human engineers built special loading platforms. When certain species could not survive in the same atmosphere as others, human life support specialists created separate environmental zones on every ship. When some beings were too large to fit through standard ship doors, human crews modified their vessels on the spot. How are they doing this? Dr. Kira asked as she watched human crews rebuilding the inside of their ships to accommodate giant crystalline beings from the fourth world. They refused to leave anyone behind, Admiral Junho replied with growing admiration. Every time we say, someone cannot be saved, they find a way to save them. The most impressive moment came when the evacuation reached the 7th world. The inhabitants were energy beings who could not survive in physical ships. The alien fleets had no way to transport them. We cannot evacuate energy beings, Admiral Junho reported to the human fleet. Our ships are not designed for non-physical life forms. That is a problem, admitted Engineer Wubin, but not an impossible problem. Give us a few hours. What the humans did next amazed even their alien partners. They convert. 1 year after the Kepler rescue, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. President Seojin of the newly formed Human Colonial Union stood before the largest gathering in galactic history as she prepared to address representatives from over 1,000 worlds. The ceremony was being held on New Terra, humanity's first purpose-built diplomatic world. The planet had been designed as a meeting place where any species could survive comfortably. The atmosphere could be adjusted for different breathing requirements, the gravity could be modified in different zones, and the temperature could be controlled to suit anyone's needs. Citizens of the galaxy, President Seojin began, her words translated instantly into 800 different languages. 1 year ago, most of you had never heard of humanity. Today, we work together as partners, friends and neighbors. In the Great Assembly Hall, beings from across the galaxy listened with attention that would have been impossible before human integration. The seating arrangement itself showed how much things had changed. Instead of species sitting in separate sections, the delegates were mixed together. Humans sat next to crystalline beings, energy creatures floated beside insectoid representatives, and mechanical intelligences shared space with organic life forms. We did not come to your galaxy to conquer or to rule, President Seojin continued. We came to explore, to learn, and to help where we could. What we found was a community of remarkable beings who welcomed us despite their fears. The past year had proven that human integration benefited everyone. Human colonies served as rescue centers for species fleeing natural disasters. Their willingness to live on dangerous worlds meant that refugees always had somewhere safe to go, even if that somewhere seemed impossible to inhabit. Commander Yuna, who had been promoted to Director of Galactic Exploration, presented her annual report to the Assembly. The numbers were staggering. In the past 12 months, human-led exploration teams have discovered 372 new star systems, Commander Yuna announced. They have made first contact with 18 previously unknown species and have established peaceful relations with all of them. The exploration success was possible because humans did more than just find new worlds. They found new ways to reach those worlds. Human engineers had developed safer routes through dangerous regions of space, cutting travel time between distant systems from months to weeks. Engineer Wubin, now serving as Director of Galactic Technology Exchange, explained how human innovation was spreading throughout the galaxy. "We have shared our technology freely with anyone who wanted to learn," Wubin said. "But more importantly, we have learned from everyone else." The combination of human, engineering, and galactic science has created innovations none of us could have achieved alone. The examples were everywhere. Human durability combined with crystalline precision had created construction materials that could survive anything. Human adaptability combined with energy being knowledge had led to new forms of faster-than-light travel. Human problem-solving combined with ancient alien wisdom had solved challenges that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. Dr. Sora, now head of the Galactic Biological Research Institute, shared the most surprising discovery of the year. "We have learned that humans are not unique in their adaptability," Dr. Sora announced. "Every species has the potential for rapid adaptation and innovation. Humans simply never learned that such things were supposed to be impossible." This revelation was changing how the entire galaxy thought about limitations and possibilities. Species that had accepted certain problems as unsolvable for thousands of years were suddenly finding solutions. The human attitude that every problem could be solved was spreading, and it was making everyone more capable. The three factions that had formed during the early human contact had evolved dramatically over the year. The Alliance faction had grown into the Human Galactic Cooperative, which now included over 600 worlds. These species had formed partnerships with human colonies and were working together on exploration, research, and development projects. Counselor Bora, now serving as Director of Cooperative Relations, described the success of these partnerships. "Working with humans has taught us that cooperation is more powerful than competition," Bora said. "When we combine our different strengths and perspectives, we achieve results that seemed impossible before." The Resistance faction had largely disbanded as War Prime Donghae discovered that it was impossible to maintain military opposition to a species that kept rescuing your people and sharing their technology. Instead of fighting humans, Donghae now led joint exploration missions into the most dangerous regions of space. "I spent months preparing for war with the humans," Donghae admitted to the Assembly. "Instead, I learned that the greatest battles are fought against the challenges of the universe itself. Humans taught us that we are all on the same side in that fight." The isolationist faction, led by High Mind Chaeyoung, had discovered that isolation from humanity meant isolation from the galaxy's rapidly advancing future. The Crystalline Collective had reluctantly opened diplomatic relations and found that working with humans improved their own capabilities dramatically. "We feared that human influence would disrupt our careful, methodical approach to progress," Chaeyoung's mental projection conveyed to the Assembly. "Instead, we learned that combining human innovation with our precision creates results superior to either approach alone." Admiral Jiwon, who had led the Kepler rescue operation, now commanded the Deep Space Exploration Fleet. Her ships pushed into the unknown regions beyond the galactic edge, always accompanied by volunteer crews from dozens of species. "Every day we discover something new," Admiral Jiwon reported. "New worlds, new phenomena, new forms of life. The universe is much larger and more wonderful than any of us imagined." The exploration fleet had made contact with the neighboring Andromeda Galaxy and had established peaceful relations with several species there. Trade routes were being established and cultural exchange programs were already underway. But perhaps the most important change was happening on a personal level throughout the galaxy. Dr. Kira of the Crystalline Collective had spent the year studying human social behavior. Her findings were presented to the assembly with obvious emotion. Humans do not just solve technical problems, Dr. Kira said. They solve social problems. They have taught us that differences between species are not obstacles to overcome, but advantages to celebrate. The evidence was everywhere. On New Terra, children from dozens of different species played together in parks where the environment was adjusted for everyone's comfort. Restaurants served cuisine from hundreds of worlds. Universities offered courses taught by the greatest minds from across the galaxy. The integration was not just political or economic. It was personal. Beings who had never interacted with other species were forming friendships, partnerships, and even families that crossed species lines. Elder Minji of the Ethereal Dominion, now over 3,000 years old, offered her perspective on the changes. In my long life, I have seen the galaxy grow from a collection of isolated worlds to a community of cooperating species, Elder Minji said. But I have never seen change happen so quickly or so positively. Humans have not just joined our community. They have shown us what our community could become. As President Seojin concluded her address, she offered a vision of the future that excited beings throughout the galaxy. This is just the beginning, she said. We have barely started to explore what we can accomplish together. There are new galaxies to discover, new challenges to overcome, and new possibilities to explore. The ceremony concluded with a moment that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. Representatives from over 1,000 worlds stood together and pledged to work toward a common future of exploration, cooperation, and mutual support. As the delegates began to leave New Terra and return to their home worlds, the changes that humanity had brought to the galaxy were already spreading further. Ships loaded with mixed crews departed for distant stars. Research teams with members from dozens of species set out to solve ancient mysteries. Refugee ships headed toward human colonies where the impossible had become routine. Captain Minho of the deep space vessel, Pioneer, made the final log entry that would close this chapter of galactic history. Today we begin our journey to make first contact with the Triangulum Galaxy, he recorded. The crew includes representatives from 47 different species, all eager to see what new wonders await us. He paused and looked around the bridge where humans worked alongside beings that would have been considered impossible allies just 2 years earlier. The humans came to our galaxy with a simple message, Captain Minho continued. They told us to get ready because things were about to get wild. They were right, but not in the way we expected. Things got wild in the best possible way. On Earth, now serving as a diplomatic center for the entire galaxy, the changes were most visible in the everyday interactions between species. The planet, that had once been considered a death world by galactic standards, was now home to beings from across the universe. The gravity had been adjusted in different regions to accommodate various species, and the atmosphere was carefully managed to ensure everyone could